Hello and welcome to Group Chat. I am Justin Verrier. That's Rob Mahoney. That's Big Waz. We are back here in Los Angeles, so about a week before you're actually hearing this, to go through part 2 of the preseason power rankings. Typically, we would do a little bit of banter up top here, but because we're recording these in advance, because we want to get these out to you as soon as possible, and with our lovely faces and this amazing backdrop that Victoria Valencia has constructed for us, we are turning to our friend Rob, who is going to provide us with some fodder in order to get us into our exercise today.
I'm always here for fodder. You know, we don't have the news. We don't have the news hook. We don't have something to talk about. So instead, I turn to the New York Times' 36 questions that lead to love. I thought, you know what? This is our training camp. This is our media day. We need to bond. We need to do some team building exercises. So every one of these subsequent pods, I'm going to hit you with one of these questions starting today. Number 7.
Unless something newsworthy happens, in which point you will not hear one of these, but you will hear a new topic.
And you will see us in different places recording after the fact. But for now, I present you with this question. Do you have a secret hunch about how you will die?
I do,
You
but
do?
I don't think I want to share it.
Why not?
Whoa.
This is like kind of dark.
I think that's what we're look. We're talking about.
Okay.
We're talking about some bad NBA teams today, or at least not good NBA teams.
Right.
I think we can lean into some of the darkness.
I don't know why I've always just assumed that I would have a stroke.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
There's no reason, no
No,
specific,
it's
just
like,
a hunch.
Every time it's happened to somebody in my life, I'm like, I bet that happens to me someday. I don't know like what the causes of strokes are, why I would be more predisposed. It's just something I've always felt. This is a crazy question,
Has
to be honest.
Has it led you to be more hypervigilant about the prospect of having a stroke?
No.
It changed
hasn't.
nothing about your life
Changed
whatsoever.
nothing. It's just like
It might happen someday.
it's just like for me,
It's
I'm
a
just like
premonition.
the end is gonna be painful.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a fairly common way to go if we're talking about like
Yeah.
all the typical means. I don't think I have a specific way of dying, but I think I will die early. In fact, I probably will die of stress, probably caused by you doing something. That pisses me off.
We're gonna push a recording time, and that'll be the
Rob
thing that puts
Mahoney
you
is
over the
gonna
edge.
kill Justin Verrier.
We're waiting the 5 minutes for Rob to pop
Okay.
on, and just I croak right then and there.
Think about all you could have been doing with that 5 minutes. It's so tough.
No, but like people, I will say that I'm middle aged or I'm having a midlife crisis often as a joke, and people are like, "You're not a midlife crisis." I'm like, I'm 38 years old. Like, how long do you think I'm going?
I know. How long do you think this is gonna last?
We're not getting into the 80s and 90s.
No.
I was not built for longevity.
This is the NBA pod for midlife crises. This is really our lane. You know, there's the young creators who are coming up on YouTube. There's the old guard, and then there's us. We're in the thick of it.
Millennial dads,
True millennial dad vibes and age.
if not actual dads.
But I feel like I've gotten to know you both better through this
Well,
exercise.
what about yours?
Mine, look, probabilistically, heart disease. How I would like to go, playing pickup basketball, honestly. I want to die on my shield
How would
out
I
there.
like to go? Oh, definitely just don't wake up.
Just softly, peacefully.
Go to sleep and I'm done. That would be great.
I've also become slowly more afraid of plane crashes, which seems pretty founded, unfortunately.
It does seem quite founded.
You go through some turbulence, like one that jars you a little bit, and you get on that plane a little bit more hesitant than you did as a young man.
Well, I mean, I think this is fitting. We're going to talk about a lot of plane crashes today.
Great segue. Yes, including the next team on our list. So if you listen to these podcasts before, or you listen to part 1, you probably know the deal at this point. We ranked all the teams, aggregated the rankings. Isaiah Blakely broke the ties. Only 2 ties, I should mention, this year, which is fewer than usual, including the last team on our list on this episode. But other than that, we're going to go through talking about the teams. We're going to go through some existential questions, and we're going to name some guys or things.
Well, I think we already went through the existential question. We kind of tackled that one.
Yes,
That's true.
we did.
Well, I would say the question overall for our first team on the list, number 25, the Chicago Bulls, is pretty existential because I think they've made a lot of moves of late over the past 2 years, but I don't really know where they're going. They bring back Josh Giddey this offseason, but for a team that's constantly in the news for consternation, basically a lot of just worry about what's going on, what's the process, where are we going, what are we doing now? It was actually pretty inactive over this offseason.
Yes. I think they are the worst team that we're talking about, that we're considering in the entire league, to just look around and be like, yeah, we're good.
We're just
gonna more or less run it back.
Yeah.
A couple of moves around the edges. I don't know why you would expect anything to dramatically improve with this core. Like, there are some young players who are naturally going to get better. There's guys who are going to develop. We're all excited about that. But I just don't see a lot of reason to be optimistic about the direction of the Bulls, other than the East is going to be less competitive. So maybe just by default, they will fall into a couple more wins they otherwise would have lost.
I think the direction is that they didn't make a Vucevic type of move this offseason.
So they didn't re-Bulls. They didn't do it again.
I think that's the thing that you would be excited about. I guess excited shouldn't be the word, but you should think warmly about if you're a Bulls fan.
Sure.
The last team we talked about in part one were the Pelicans. I think there's a similar ownership dynamic happening in Chicago. It doesn't feel like the Reinsdorf really give a damn about what happens with this team either way. And I think that's why everything they do feels so rudderless and directionless. But again, not rebullsing this offseason is a sign in a good direction, I think.
Yes, if you're going to make the contrary argument, which I wouldn't necessarily subscribe to, but if you want to be an optimist about this, as I typically am, $85 million in expiring this season alone. You got Vooch, Collins, Herter, Kobe White. You presume he'll get a new deal, but he's on there for now. Ayo Dosunmu and Javon Carter. Next season, so 2 seasons from now, there are $29.2 million in expirings just on that year alone. So the team really is Josh Giddey and your most recent draft picks, and you just brought back Josh Giddey on an extension. And so you do have a world of opportunity. I think the problem is it's the same people who constructed this team that are going to get another crack, presumably at the next phase of this. It's kind of like the Brooklyn Nets, but just the worst version where there was no good and the future is bleak because you're expecting someone who didn't have success to create a successful version of the same sort of blueprint.
So the good news is some of this someday will end.
Yes. Yes. Sweet, sweet death is upon us.
Apparently. I mean, I do take your point about the same people, designing this team, redesigning a new version of the team with the same kind of fundamental decision-making flaws. I still think, Billy Donovan just got an extension as the head coach of the Bulls.
Hall of Famer.
I think he's done a fine job. I don't really attribute their shortcomings to a Billy Donovan problem per se.
Yeah, Billy Donovan's like, I don't want to say he's replacement level.
He's a good NBA coach.
Yeah, he's good.
If he was coaching the Knicks right now, you'd feel good about it.
You'd feel good about it.
I'd feel decent about it. Yeah, that's fair.
But ultimately, he has been the coach and the steward of a team that is just like 40 wins, 39 wins, 39 wins. Like, this is what they do and what they kind of expect to do. And I think part of the problem is they just don't, when they do make swings, it's for Vooch type deals. And that's not where you want to be as an organization.
Sports is weird because you fetishize continuity and just people who have been in the same jobs for a long time. But on the other hand, when it's someone who hasn't had rousing success, who hasn't won a ring, it just breeds malaise. And it just feels jarring to have someone like Donovan, who's done well for a long time, but hasn't exceeded expectations.
Continuity is only good if the thing that you're continuing was good.
But we're saying he's been good. He just hasn't been A. He's been like a B.
He hasn't been, Steve Kerr, right? In the sense that they win all these championships. KD leaves. Clay gets hurt. There's a general malaise there in Golden State. But it's like, bro, we're gonna stay the course. We still got Steph. We still got Clay. We still got Draymond. We still got Steve Kerr. And then they get rewarded in 2022 with the championship. I think, you got to respect that continuity. Or in Miami,
or in podcasting.
Or podcast.
You want to keep the same crew together despite the modest returns, I think.
Facts. But keeping it going when you've been a 39, 38 win team through the DeRozans, through the Jimmy Butlers, through the Lonzo Balls, it's tough.
And I would feel better about the turnover you're talking about, just in terms of, the salary sheet naturally kind of turning over if this was a franchise we trusted and knew could do something with those opportunities. But the reason Vooch is an expiring contract because they have failed to trade him during the windows in which he has been tradable. The reason they got so little for Zach LaVine is because they waited so long. Like, they've done this with player after player after player, all in service of sustaining a meh team.
Yeah.
Well, the one guy that they have long term now is Josh Giddey. We've talked about it on a previous pod. What did you think about that extension, Rob? 4 years, 100 million.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right?
I don't really have a big problem with it. I think ultimately the deal with Giddey is the same as it's always been. Like, he has improved as a player significantly. I think he's really found himself in a role that kind of works for him, but he has a natural ceiling in terms of his own limitations, what he is giving or not giving on defense, and how you need to compensate for that. And I said that even after he had, I think, his best defensive season last year as a Bull. It's just like, I feel the walls and the ceiling closing in on a Josh Giddey led team. Like, if he is your best player, and to be very clear, right now, he is the Chicago Bulls' best player, it tells you exactly how flawed your roster is.
Well, that's our existential question, which is who's the Bulls' best player right now and who will it be? And so you're saying Giddey is right now.
Yes.
Would you agree?
I would say Kobe White is their best player right
agree.
now.
Yes.
And if Josh Giddey continues to, improve on the jump shot, which we did talk about when we talked about his deal, I think he could make that claim. And if Josh Giddey is making his jump shots at $25 million a year, that's a great contract.
Yeah.
Right? I just think Kobe White is the most reliable in terms of what he brings on a day-to-day.
One of the most underrated players in the league, to
100%.
be fair. Not a lot of chatter
another guy
about
who
Kobe
gets
White.
better every year.
Yes. Yeah. White took off around the same time Giddey did, not coincidentally, when Zach LaVine was traded from the team. Just has a certain juice and electricity to the way he scores that I think few players, even at the top of their game, really do.
Yes.
Also, the on-ball, off-ball stuff that he's capable of doing so seamlessly within a possession, not necessarily over the course of just trading off with Giddey, I think is really beneficial because I think you could build around him. Obviously, smaller player, so defensively there's going to be concerns there, but he took leaps, especially late in the season. His ball handling bag, I think, is getting better.
The
way he knifes back and forth and the way that he has step backs and all this other stuff. I think when he's shooting well, I think it all comes together. I think he's a very good offensive player. I think the problem they're going to get into, unfortunately, is like, what do you pay a guy like that who's not a superstar, small scoring guard?
Right.
He is on an expiring contract worth about $13 million this year. You'd presume they'd want him back after this to pair with Giddey in this sort of like multi-ball handler flowing offense. And I like that version of the team, at least from an aesthetic standpoint. I just don't know what it gets you to have Giddey and White as your two core foundation players.
Are we still giving the Jordan Poole contract out? Is that still the going rate? Tyler Hero re-upped and got a raise on that.
It's true.
But like, is it still the 4 years, 120? Because I don't think that's a ridiculous contract for Kobe White.
No.
To be honest, because he's like the score first guard and can give you some ball handling juice. And like, he's a credible NBA starter. So I think that would be a fair deal for him. I know we all agree that Jordan Poole was overpaid, but we now look at Tyler Hero and be like, that was a fair deal.
Yeah.
When it's going right. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a weird game of leverage, though, because on the one hand, you would say the market based off of this offseason is diminishing the value of guys like Kobe White. I also don't know where he would go and step into a role as prominent as he is with the Bulls. On the other hand, he's a free agent. He's not a restricted free agent like Josh Giddey was.
Huge difference.
Where's the leverage on the Bull side of it to be like, oh, you could just walk? I guess the fact that they don't have anything going for them and they have nothing to necessarily lose, they can play that card. But like, I assume we'll end up in a similar place like that. Poole makes $32 million. That seems tough in this current environment, but like,
and yet Kobe White is definitively a better player than Jordan Poole and definitively more versatile in terms of, we talk about these players who can fit kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
Every team could use a Kobe White. The role, I agree with you, Justin, varies from team to team. And I think what kind of limits him as a Bull in regard to the Josh Giddey conversation is he is a really amenable, really flexible kind of scorer who can play alongside other ball handlers. He doesn't define the way you play. And that's a blessing and a curse, right? That makes him as versatile as he is, but it also means you can envision a world without him sometimes. And I think that's a dangerous place to get with an unrestricted free agent.
It's a tough world for the short scoring kings.
Oh, yeah.
Of our league, unfortunately. But I would give the Bulls credit in this regard. They have filled out the rest of their roster with bigger wings that have some skill to them. I think Modest Buzelis, prime example of that sort of mold that they typically gravitate toward, where the guys can do a little bit of everything. Buzelis just being a bigger version of perhaps even a Giddey, who's big in his own right. And then Noah Senge, who they picked 12th overall in this past draft, kind of in that similar mold. We'll see, very young, but I see the vision with this team is the unfortunate thing, which apparently nobody else does. I feel like I'm the kid in the Sixth Sense.
Can you tell us the vision?
Yeah, can you share it with us?
It's what we saw in that first 2 months of the Lonzo Ball era, where people were ripping and running Caruso, where the defense gives way to fast break offense. There's multiple ball handlers. Things are just flowing, and it's just kind of like an overwhelming avalanche of passing and shooting and skill, right? And I see that they're trying to do that again. It's just like this team still feels like 4 years away, even if that is your vision with the existing players at the centerpiece.
Well, even their skilled players.
You said 4 years away?
I mean,
yeah.
Vazelis is like 2 years away.
Yeah.
Senge might be 4.
Yeah.
Another draft pick you would need. Because Vooch probably isn't going to stay past this. We hope.
Yeah.
We think won't be the starting center of that team.
So that's a couple more years of like between 35 and 40 wins, and then we're finally ready for something.
I think that is the best version of this team if they wait it out. Because Giddey in his own right, we should mention, like, he's on his second contract, but he's still like 22 years old.
Yeah,
he was a very young player to start his career. And so I think you wait it out, you build talent. I think that would be the most prudent path. But then you're just asking a fan base that is still rabid despite recent returns to keep waiting for something that might not get there.
They've been asked to wait a long time.
Yeah, well, that Michael Jordan statue is still out front, and they could take photos in front of it.
It's true. Whatever like soul was sold at a crossroads to a demon has paid off. There's no question for the Chicago Bulls as an organization, but I get what you're saying from the vision perspective. I think specifically in Buzelis' case, like the best player right now is one of those two guys, Kobe White or Josh Giddey. The most important person in the entire organization is Matas Buzelis because they could use a lot more players like him. You can see why they would target kind of similarly multifaceted players, but he's the first guy they've had that feels like he is opening something up for the franchise with his potential. Like Josh Giddey is a little more, okay, we've gotten a player who we didn't really have a player type before, and that has changed some things about how we play. Buzelis, you see now, and it's like, this is exciting and fun and invigorating. And it's exciting and fun and invigorating in part because I have no idea what he's going to be in 2 years. And the fact that he can do a little bit of everything at such a competent level already, and also has like such an unconventional style and game in terms of the timing, it makes it feel elusive in a good way.
Mm-hmm. You like Ike Okoro for who will be the best player?
God.
Patrick Williams?
Putting Ike Okoro and Pat Williams on the same team is a sick joke, honestly. I mean, I'm a Jalen Smith guy. I always have been. I just think like he always gives quality minutes when he's on the floor. If not like, oh, he's some world beater, but you never regret having him out on the floor. I just look at the pieces after the big three of Giddey, White, and Buzelis. It's tough. It's slim pickings after those three.
Well, especially the wing rotation. Like this is, I guess it depends on how you want to classify guys like Giddey and Kobe White, but like beyond them,
dude, Ike Okoro couldn't make it work in Cleveland with that surrounding talent.
Yeah.
It seems unlikely that this is going to be an elevated Ike Okoro from the one we've seen previously. Am I crazy to think that?
And yet he might be their best other wing player by default. It's either him or Kevin Huerter, basically.
If he shoots
it's not Patrick Williams.
It makes sense.
We know that.
It hasn't worked for a guy Ike, but I get the logic at the very least for the trade where Lonzo, are we sure he's going to even play? He plays very well, especially in contrast to Ike Okoro when he does play, but like that guy has like a exoskeleton at this point in his lower half.
They also just don't have kind of go-to defensive stoppers. And Isaac Okoro, again, he's like a pretty standstill shooter, quite limited on offense, has never really gotten his arms around that side of the ball, but he puts in work defensively. He will pressure guys. He's a little undersized, which has always been kind of a disappointing part of his game. Like if he were the size of Pat Williams, but the heart of Ike Okoro, that's a player. Unfortunately, they have both and they're in separate bodies. Yes.
Yeah, we need a Freaky Friday sort of swap here. So I think
the real Freaky Friday swap would be Lonzo's mind for the game and his brother's body.
Oh. Yeah.
That would be a hell of an NBA player.
Really would.
The Bulls, unfortunately, have neither of those. But I think the obvious answer to the question of who will be the best player is probably the guy who's not on the team at this point. And I will say, despite the fact that I don't think they're going to be good, we have them as the fifth worst team in the league next year. I do feel like recent lotteries have rewarded teams that were bad by mistake as opposed to by just like
Yes.
intention. And so perhaps the Bulls will get some good karma back for at least like trying to trot out a young developing team, not with the goal of just being as terrible as possible.
So you're gonna like take the vision of the Bulls,
Yeah.
and just like the minutes of this highly, at best, mediocre basketball team, and you think this pleases the basketball gods?
I think they're trying to be fun and trying to be good. Unfortunately, they are not good at being good.
No.
At building good.
Yes.
And so they will be bad by default. And that is what the gods look down upon is having the right attitude toward losing. And I do think you stick up high-end talent on this team, like a Darren Peterson and AJ DeBonsa, whoever comes out of college this season, like now we're on to something.
Yeah.
Now we got a little juice here. So any other guys to name or things?
I was delighted to find out that we already had Mo Gay on the Atlanta Hawks, Muhammad Gay in the NBA. We now have on the Bulls Mohamedou Gay in addition. So we now live in a world with both Muhammad Gay and Mohamedou Gay, and I'm thrilled about it.
Okay. Vucevic has a $22 million expiring contract. I will say this about Vooch. He played well last year. The good version of Vooch showed up.
Yes.
What that means
What was it worth?
That's the question. Like when he's playing well, like it's almost like he's playing to a neutral.
There's a lot of these questions with the Bulls of like, this player did this thing. Josh Giddey is the king of this. Josh Giddey put up good numbers, had his best season to date. What is it worth? And the Bulls had to put an actual financial value on that. But the reality is when he was on the floor, they were about the level of like the 18th best offense in the league.
I just think when Vucevic is rolling, no defense reacts differently. You know what I mean? It's like, if he's playing well, it's like, oh, that's nice. He's not being a negative suck on the team. Like when he is playing well, they're not going to send extra defenders. They're not going to tilt the defense in his direction. Like everybody's just like, okay.
I think Vooch would be best served. Now we're really deep in the weeds about Vooch's best usage in the NBA.
I want what's best for him.
I think he would be a very good backup center where the offense tilts toward him. Kind of like, this is a different example, but Brook Lopez is presumed to be the backup center in the Clippers.
Yes. Yeah. Or
to give him a different look. Like I think that would really serve him well. Like if he was the Lakers backup center, you have DeAndre Ayton insurance.
Well, what Valanciunas is doing in Denver this year.
Yes.
Like if he could come in and just man a bench unit and just keep everything afloat, yeah, that's beautiful.
I think the
28 minutes a game in the NBA.
Yeah. The unfortunate part is it does feel like the Bulls offense, at least last year, needed him to step outside and provide the spacing for the rest of the guys because some of the shooting could be iffy. And so like he actually is more central to what they're doing than he probably should.
He hates spacing, by the way.
It's not his favorite part of the job. We should say this.
Typically sucks at it.
As far as their overall spacing goes, and Vooch is a part of that clearly, like they did get the right kinds of shots. Like the profile looks good. The shots that Josh Giddey creates, I think on paper look good. Do they look good in flow? I don't always think that's the case. And so they're in this weird middle ground of like, yes, they're getting like quote unquote good threes for like guys who can't actually shoot. They're getting shots inside for guys who can't actually finish. Like, how do those shots change if those were actually players who needed to be guarded in those spaces? And that's where I get a little bit nervous about extrapolating a little bit of offensive success into something actually lasting and contending.
And you want to throw that on the feet of Billy Donovan. He's provided this beautiful outline.
I'm not saying it's Billy Donovan's fault.
That his co-hosts just haven't executed on. And you want to blame him. That's fine.
The fact that you see yourself as a Billy Donovan type, very interesting, says a lot to me.
I think that's actually pretty accurate.
Aggro, Northeastern, tracks.
Winner. I don't even think he's aggro.
Winner.
I find him to be,
thoughtful, actually.
Quite thoughtful.
Yeah.
Nice. Seems like a nice guy.
He has a long history of giving the longest answers to press conference questions. And like, it might be historic. It's just heavily detailed and nuanced.
Highly literal also.
Yes.
I remember, I want to say this was Fred Katz. Forgive me, Fred, if this was not your story, but relaying a Billy Donovan answer about like starting off this road trip, and Billy Donovan gave like a step-by-step, like, oh, well, first we went to the airport, then we went through, then we went through security, then we went down the road. It was like, but not as a bit, but just like, this is the way this guy thinks. This is how he explains the world.
Yeah.
Step by step. One brick at a time, baby.
There we go.
That's what we do here. The next brick for our preseason power rankings, the Phoenix Suns at number 24. One of the
Woof.
saddest teams in America across all sports.
Woof.
They did a lot this offseason, including getting rid of their two of their best players. Kevin Durant is now gone. Bradley Beal is gone technically, but you look at those books, he's still around for a while, unfortunately. I have little hope in this team, but there's just too much talent for them to be in the first part of our podcast.
Definitely.
Which is why they end up here in the dregs of the Western Conference, but still feisty because you have Booker and stuff, and that's going to get you a couple wins in the 20s and the 30s probably.
Booker's, I would think, easily the best player we've talked about so far, right? Has there been any player on any of these other lesser teams that are even close to him?
Yegor?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Booker is, yeah, he's the best player so far.
Which says something that a player of his caliber is at 24.
But then you look at the team, and not only is it not a team up to the talent of even last year's roster, but one that just does not fit together very well. One in which you don't see how Devin Booker fits with all of these other players around whom are supposed to be supporting him, starting with Jalen Green, and think, oh, this is a marriage that just absolutely works in theory.
Yeah.
I've always had a soft spot for Devin Booker going back to like 2018 when the first time I saw him play here in LA, and I was like, man, what's not to like about this guy? Like, nobody can stay in front of him. He makes his jump shots. Like, he's got a great handle and a feel for the game. However, I've gotten to the point where I think his reputation is outpaced what he actually brings these days. And I think the Phoenix contract is just like...
It's quite a deal.
That's exhibit A of Devin Booker has gotten to be overrated.
Also, what are you going to do if you're the Suns? Like, unless you are tearing everything down to the studs. And I think Devin Booker... I agree in some ways, maybe a little overstated in terms of his reputation. I'm still struggling personally with understanding, like, what is the best Devin Booker role? Like, who are his ideal teammates? I don't really know.
Chris Paul.
Well, apparently not.
That's his ideal team. That's when he's had his best years.
But ideal teammate is personality as much as it is game. It's like, what kinds of people and what kinds of players do you need around Devin Booker? I don't know.
Jalen Green might be the polar opposite of Chris Paul as a backcourt mate.
Well, hasn't it been announced that Jalen Green's not going to start? Or
is that a thing?
He's not going to be the point guard. Excuse me. He's not going to play point guard.
Well, I assume Devin Booker is kind of the kind of the point guard.
We're back to the Booker as pseudo.
Yes, I think the problem for Booker, man, is he's not making his pull-up threes anymore for whatever reason, and he's just not as dangerous a number one option if he's not putting defenses in a panic with that part of his arsenal.
Yes.
And so I think if Devin Booker were as good as his reputation or the contract that he got, the Suns would have just been way better last year.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't good enough, bro.
Yeah.
And now he's being asked to do even more. Like, I'm as big a critic of KD as anybody, but the idea that he was making Devin Booker's job harder doesn't seem to track with me. So I don't know.
Well, the issue is they didn't have any centers, That was the only issue with that team.
The only one.
And so they doubled down, and somehow they now have 3 centers, including Nick Richards, whom they traded for last trade deadline, who was just hanging around long enough to see Mark Williams, his former teammate with the Charlotte Hornets, now on the same team. And plus they have Malawach comes via the draft, the lottery pick they get from the Suns, which was their own hilariously. I just don't... I'm glad they have centers now. I don't know why they decided to lean so far into it.
The idea that the solution to your problem is the center rotation of the Charlotte Hornets, a team that also struggled with the maintenance and consistency of that exact center rotation.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I don't know what.
Well, the owners said they were going to be doing things less conventionally going forward.
They certainly are.
This might be part of that push.
One area in which that is true is with the other kind of point guards on this team, which is a real be careful what you wish for Rob moment. 2 guys I actually really like in Jordan Goodwin and Jared Butler. Do I like them as guys who are playing starter type minutes? No. Do I like them as guys who are playing even second, immediate backup minutes? Not always, to be honest with you. But 2 role players I actually like, and at least one of them is going to be asked to do quite a bit.
The Jordan Goodwin revisionist history based off of some solid Lakers minutes toward the end of last year is out of control.
Honestly, the Lakers stint is the worst part of his career.
Wow.
Like, he can actually guard people. And again, this is a team that needs perimeter defense, that needs pressure in exactly the way we were just talking about with the Bulls too. Like, they need somebody who's going to get up, whether it's full court or just, picking up high on in terms of the pickup point. But Jalen Green's not going to do it. Devin Booker's not going to do it. Dylan Brooks will. I think the combination of Brooks and one of these guards is the baseline of something on defense, but it's not a finished product.
I think Booker at his best is guarding people as well.
Sure. But with that offensive workload, is that even reasonable?
He's doing more this year.
Yeah.
It's tough. Yeah, I agree that there is more of a floor for which Booker can probably, if he excels, that at the very least there's some stability in order to provide him that spotlight. Unfortunately, I think you are left with the Goodwins and some of these younger players who have gone from other teams and are looking for their second or third shots in order to be sort of the upside swings, because there aren't any more on this roster in this organization. So you mentioned Devin Booker's onerous contract down the road there. He's making $69 million in a player option in 29-30 when we will all be dead of some various form or fashion. The Suns don't have control of their pick for another 2 years after that, until the 2032 season.
Yes.
That's how bereft they are of anything. And so you would say, like, oh, they're a little bit more solid on the fringes. Dylan Brooks is the type of 3-and-D wing that they haven't had before because they were just stockpiling shooting guards left and right. On the other hand, like, when Dylan Brooks comes off the books in like 2 or 3 years, it's like, how do you replace that? And you could say, like, oh, free agency. Suns are a destination. People like being in Phoenix.
They legitimately do.
They want to play with Devin Booker. I bring up Tyson Chandler hanging out in a closet when LaMarcus Aldridge was there all the time because it's one of the most hilarious stories in recent history. Unfortunately, the books, because they waived and stretched Bradley Beal, he's hanging around like a fucking specter.
The combination of the Beal stretch contract and Booker's new deal makes operating in free agency at any kind of star level not impossible, but just highly, highly unlikely.
Do you know who's making the second most money in 28-29 when Dylan Brooks, when Green, Allen, and O'Neal come off the books?
Second most in Phoenix?
Yes. After Devin Booker.
The Zodiac Killer.
If you were referring to Bradley Beal, you would be correct.
Oh, it's Bradley Beal.
Yes, Bradley Beal's stretched and waived contract at $19.4 million is making the second most money in that season. Do you know who's making, I believe it was third most? Nazir Little, whose contract was also stretched and waived for $3 million. We're assuming that Mark Williams gets an extension this offseason, so that could knock that off by the time we listen to this. But
I mean, they are stretching and waving like nobody else, except maybe the Bucks.
They have like basically a Josh Giddey worth of salary just lingering in a stockpile over in the corner that is just completely messing things up.
This to me is backdooring into our existential question.
Yes. Oh, you want to
yeah, would you like to read it? It's your question. I mean, I'm glad to claim it as my own, but you did author
I thought you were referring to our deaths, but
no. Somehow not, even though this is the podcast for thinking about death and getting sad and stuff.
So the question is, when is the next time Booker plays with another star in Phoenix, being the caveat, which is a very important one, and how did it happen?
I think it would happen via trade, and it would be a dump. It would be LaMelo. It would be a Trae Young because things went horribly wrong in Atlanta. And, calling those guys stars, they are stars.
Sure. But at that point, it may be a very different conversation.
At that point, it's like you're just grasping at straws. It's like, let's put another quote-unquote star player next to Devin Booker and just see what happens because there's no other pathway here for them. They would have to take a flyer on a guy that teams have just deemed like the money, the output is just not there anymore.
Right.
I think the answer is he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there will be another star in Phoenix to play with Devin Booker. We talked about the free agency situation. Justin, you laid out how many picks are already out the door. The young prospects on the roster, I think there's a couple that you could like as potential role players, but guys who would return a star in a trade, I just don't see it. And so then how are they getting there? I think to me, it's much more likely that when Booker when this contract runs out in 2030, that he leaves. Or sometime in the middle, he gets very frustrated with what is not going to be a very good team. Those feel much more likely to me than them trading for another star, which sucks. And I understand for the Suns, especially as a fan of that team, like this is your guy, right? Like, this is somebody who has been around through so many coaching changes, so many rebuilds, like has not had a fair shake of it in terms of carrying an organization, and yet that's a reason to leave.
I think their only advantage in terms of team building is that they're so in deep in terms of debt that can become a strength because you're more willing to do exactly what Waz says. Take on the bad contract for a guy who just wants out. And we saw this with Jimmy Butler play out. He wanted to get to Phoenix specifically because they were willing to give him an extension.
Yes.
And the one advantage to getting rid of Bradley Beal, despite the fact that they have to pay him for 5 more years after this, is that you're out of the second apron for a time being. Perhaps it gives you a little bit more wiggle room to overpay the next guy. Now, will you be in the same situation then at that point? Yes, but that's a future you problem. You don't have to worry about that.
But even the idea of making another Bradley Beal trade happen, they can't do it. Like, they just don't have the pick. Like, it was all pick sweetening to make that even possible. And they threw in way too much to even make that one work.
Do we consider D'Angelo Russell a star?
No.
Because he was an all-star
No.
at one point.
D'Angelo Russell.
No.
Can we get the team back together, the boys?
That is
Nope.
bleak.
Because it's at the point where, like, even if you were like, oh, Booker is friends with certain people, maybe they would want to come and play with them. Like, why the hell would Cat, for instance, one of his good friends, like, why would he ever do that?
I don't even know financially how you would do it.
Yeah. Very difficult.
They just gotta pray. I don't even know that I would say pray. They just have to wait for, again, a star that nobody wants to go onto the market.
They just did it on a smaller scale with Jalen Green, a player who was on the market, a scorer, a creator, a guy with a high draft pedigree who, everyone around the league has been kind of waiting to really have his moment. He hasn't had it yet. I don't think this is going to be it, but if there is a high upside swing for Jalen Green, maybe that opens up something and you draw some interest that way. I just don't know that he really has it in him based on everything we've seen so far to be a star level or to at least tempt a star level trade.
Yes, if they could draw something out of some of these younger guys, you've built kind of similar to what the Heat have, finding guys from the fringes, a feeder system that goes beyond any cap constraints, right? That is like something unique to certain franchises that becomes more valuable as like the cap starts to become more hard, right?
Yeah.
I just, do you have any faith that this is the organization to do that?
No.
They haven't showed it at this point. Maybe the new coaching staff is just, they've lucked into the next like Kenny Atkinson style where he's going to be doing shoeless drills on the floor with these guys. And all of a sudden Jalen Green figures it out. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's what they need to happen.
If a coach slapping the floor is what gets Jalen Green's career together, I would be thrilled about it, honestly, but I'm not banking on it.
Yeah, I think last year is when I officially I'm out. I'm off the boat.
On Jalen Green?
You were a believer for a while.
Yeah, just the talent is there.
It's clearly there.
It's just never been functional, like the speed with the ball, without the ball, the explosiveness. It's like never resulted in like some great rim finishing.
No.
Obviously, the shot selection has been a problem from the day that he stepped into the NBA. And then, last year in the playoffs, like they needed him to be the vision of what they drafted him for. And he just
not
just
even
didn't
that.
have
They
it.
just needed him to be a scoring presence. That
Yeah.
for all, I've had skepticism about his game and his shot selection, everything you just talked about. Was the moment that radicalized me was him getting like Steph one-on-one and he can't do anything. Like
Yeah, that's
he
crazy.
can't create, he can't get an angle, he can't get a lane. Like, what are you doing as a player if you are Jalen Green? If not thriving in those sorts of one-on-one situations, like that your game, that's not the entirety of your game. But if you can't do that, what else are you
What's
doing?
the vision of him working out in Phoenix?
I don't know.
Well, if it does work out, it feels like it duplicates what you'd want from Booker. Like his ball domineering, just those scoring binges he goes on, like the one playoff game that he had.
Yep.
Everything centers around him and he becomes what everyone orbits around.
But
That's
like,
Booker.
The best of Devin Booker is a guy that's getting to the line, making his threes.
For sure.
Like bending the defense.
A true 3-level scorer.
Yeah, having two guys that do that would be incredible. But yeah, I just don't see
The
that.
one game every 5 where Jalen Green goes off are really fun.
Yes.
I would say one of every 7 to 8, but
yeah. So if you could check your like moon and zodiac charts in order to pick the right home game in order to catch that, you're in luck. But otherwise, I think it's going to be tough sledding.
Agreed.
Any other guys or things?
I mean, there's some fringe guys who are interesting. I like Oso Ighodaro.
Yeah.
Again, it's just like an effort prospect, like high energy guy. I'm excited to see now Nigel Hayes-Davis back in the NBA and what he can do for them.
Yeah.
Again, not that they need a ton of I mean, they do need scoring, but he doesn't like solve their scoring issues or their creation issues, but couldn't hurt to have him around.
Remember when Ryan Dunn made all of his threes for 3 weeks?
We were very excited about
Everyone
it.
went nuts.
Remember that?
He was basically untouchable.
Yeah.
Maybe he could do it for 6 weeks this year.
That would be thrilling.
Kobe Bryant can shoot.
Sure.
We'll see. Mark Williams might play 50 games.
Mark Williams is not it.
It needs to get paid.
Guys.
I mean, Mark Williams is a type of player that they have not had.
Yeah.
Granted, he's a type of player who I would want a more traditional point guard setting up. And Devin Booker's a good passer, but a good passer like 4-2. Like 4 kind of I think at best maybe a combo guard if you wanted to lay him out that way. But
big old target.
I don't know that I want like a ton of Devin Booker, Mark Williams pick and roll as like the crux of my offense. Like I don't want everything rolling around that. And if not, where is Mark Williams contributing offensively?
Also, Malawak he's a project.
Yeah.
He is not ready.
Yeah.
For the NBA. What a great story we're building in Phoenix.
Well, to turn the page to something more rainbows and sunshine, we have
Christ.
number 23, the Sacramento Kings, who I found it tough to watch the Philadelphia 76ers last year because there was so much sadness behind the eyes of everything they were doing. This was before they completely turned the page to the tanking, and you got guys like Quentin Grimes taking 40 shots a game and all this other stuff. That's a different story. But there was a time where they were trying to make it work in between the games where nobody was healthy, where it's like Paul George playing center. It was just very tough to watch. I think the Kings might rival that this year from the jump.
Ugh.
Because there's just nothing to get excited about, one. And then two, you have these veterans who we've had such good times with, like former cast members of your favorite sitcoms going off and doing like a CW show. You're like, oh, I remember when we had fun and spent time just
worse,
with the laughs.
Like doing Celebrity Big Brother.
Yes.
Or something like
that's
that.
the one.
I have them down as the worst League Pass team of the year.
I think that is definitively true,
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Wow.
I think there's something so dispiriting about like offense is their best side of the ball, clearly. Like personnel wise, in terms of their success last season, like this is an offense forward team. And yet I dislike almost everything about the form and function of their offense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so why like I won't like watching it. I also just don't think they're going to be particularly good. I don't think there's any reason for optimism in particular about this new trio of stars with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis. Like those 3 guys have not worked in basically any combination so far that involves Zach LaVine in particular.
Cool.
Why would we expect that to change? And why would this be a particularly watchable or interesting or successful team?
That's tough. Yeah. I mean, you look at the offensive talent on paper between LaVine, DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Malik Monk.
Yeah.
Even a Dennis Schroeder, like he gives you stuff on offense.
Dennis Schroeder's a good player.
It's just like you said, Rob, there's no form to the team. There's no shape to it. It's just a muddled, just literally like they almost just threw these players against the wall and just like maybe this will stick. And then, we're hearing Westbrook's gonna be added to this mix.
Yeah. It's like an auto-drafted team.
It really is.
Exactly.
They're not really going to do the Westbrook thing, are they?
I wouldn't put it past them.
The Westbrook thing would be, just making a bad thing worse. Trading for Jonathan Kuminga would be making a bad thing worse, although it is hilarious that the Warriors are reportedly resistant to trade Kuminga within the division to the Sacramento Kings.
Huh.
Which makes no sense to me. You don't want to pay the kid, but you're scared to trade him in division?
They're terrified of what he could become in Sacramento.
Right. The team was flawed previously, but there was a clear vision for what they were. Now I don't know how these parts all fit together. I don't know if DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine will be willing to stay past this trade deadline in order to make it all work.
Yeah.
And then you just throw in the veterans that you're overpaying just to get them in the door. And so as much as you could say that Dennis Schroeder is like, he's a grinder. He did well and played his role in Detroit after getting tossed around to 2 other franchises last year. It's just like, he's not changing anything appreciably for this team.
Well, we're now like 3 iterations removed from the version of the Kings that was good, right? That was a Sabonis, Fox, Malik Monk team, kind of first and foremost. Keegan Murray, also a huge part of it. And then
Still waiting for that come up
So-
for Keegan Murray.
I know.
Well,
it's been
I think we'll get to
disappointing.
him, but like then you bring in DeMar, who already it wasn't a great balance between Fox and DeMar and Sabonis, and then you bring in Levine instead, and it's even worse. It's even worse in terms of process. Like these guys do not work well together. I would love to say that like, oh, if you just started this guy, if you just plugged in this guy, but no, like doesn't matter if it's Malik Monk. It doesn't matter if it's Keon Ellis. It's not going to matter if it's Dennis Schroeder, who I cannot think for as much as I actually really do like Dennis Schroeder and like kind of the player he's become over the last couple of
How's he
years.
supposed to play with DeMar DeRozan?
He's the exact he's the player they need least. The kind of
Yes.
player they need least is Dennis Schroeder.
So can I give you my bottom 5 league pass rankings?
I would love to hear
I
him.
prepared here. So number 1, so starting from the bottom, so the worst team, Sacramento Kings, as we discussed. Number 2, I have the Jazz, who I think
Okay.
go above the Kings, not based on actual basketball, but because there are young guys at the very least you're intrigued to
Sure.
Sure.
look
I
into.
want to see what Ace can do.
And for us, I think part of the exploration of League Pass is like seeing young guys developing, especially
Sure.
earlier in the season. Who are these guys? How are they going to use them?
Sure.
What are they going to be? Number 3, the Pelicans. Again, sadness behind the eyes.
Mm.
You'll have the Zion games, which is their only salvation. I think Fears will pop occasionally. Also have the skeleton uniforms, which are kind of cool.
Okay.
Also Zero Fears. We didn't mention in the previous
Yes.
Very
that's
cool.
Very
I do
fun.
like it.
aesthetics. And number 4, the Suns, who we just talked about. Again, another sad team. They can only do so much with Devin Booker. Number 5, the Heat. That offense is going to be a fucking sludge factory.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like the Celtics are in there too for
Okay.
me. Because they're not going to be
Yeah.
good.
Well, we'll get to that.
They're not going to be fun. It's not like, I think people are interested to see what Jaylen Brown does. And
Most
I'm
of the
just
time,
like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, he might take 23 shots a game, but like, is that going to be interesting?
I don't think so.
I
mean,
No, but I think the Heat are a good pick. Really, the only saving grace from Miami from like a watchability perspective, where Bam to me always has some juice and is doing interesting stuff from like a basketball dork perspective. I am a simple man and just like Norm Powell putting the bucket or putting the ball in the bucket. Like I just that is appealing to me.
Yeah. Did I miss
Yeah, the
any
Kings
other real
is-
dogs?
Those feel like the worst of the worst, to be honest with you. I mean, look, your mileage may vary on which truly bad teams feel unwatchable to you, but like, I don't know, the Hornets are going to get up and down. Like, even some of these other
Yeah.
bad teams are at least going to be fast enough. I think the Nets could be a very tough watch.
Right. Any other guys or things for our
I
Sacramento
mean, we
Kings?
mentioned Keegan Murray. I think he does warrant a mention just because, especially after his rookie year, there was so much enthusiasm associated with what he could be because he is a bigger wing and we thought he could shoot it and be a movement kind of guy and be a ball mover. And he just felt like this perfect connector
Yeah.
kind of piece, would guard people, like a high IQ. He just felt like somebody just made for today's NBA. And it just hasn't gone that way for him. And that's deeply disappointing. Like for me, I thought he would be a bigger wing version of basically a Derek White. Like a supercharged
Ball mover,
role
energizer.
player.
Yeah.
Like an elite role player. Like, no, he's not going to take your offense to new heights or whatever. He's not going to be the guy that carries you through a playoff series. But, I'll be damned if he's not constantly contributing to why you're getting over, quality opponents. And he just hasn't put that all around game together.
I think
It's
that's
disappointing.
it. It's all the components are there, but when it's not all actualizing at the same time, when it is like you have one good shooting season and then one good defending season, and this season maybe you're a little better at moving the ball, but the other things have fallen away. The result is sometimes he's just kind of invisible. Sometimes he's just kind of out there in like a very nondescript wing way that's worrying. And I say, we've held a lot of Keegan Murray stock on this pod. Like we have wanted him to hit and to click and to elevate. And I think we're just going to have to start readjusting our expectations a little bit.
He's 25.
Yeah, he was an older rookie. If he could shoot it as well as he has in summer league, all bets are off. Unfortunately, he is due an extension before the deadline, before the season gets started. So we'll see if they come to that or he'll hit restricted free agency. I assume he's the type of player you bet on again.
Yeah.
Just because the pathway to him being the good version is simple enough. It's like one of those things where it's like, it's clear if you just shoot well, we'll find a place for you and we can figure everything out from there. It's just like, you need to be a dead eye shooter, especially for that offense, which at this point is relying a lot on those like step out Sabonis threes in order to
What's
space
the
the floor.
prototype of that deal though? Jabari Smith?
Yeah, I think so.
Damn.
But you're right. He's already
It's a
on the
big
older
commitment
side. So
for
how
what
much
Keegan
upside?
Murray is like actually shown, right?
Yeah.
But you're the king, so
What else you doing?
yeah.
They typically just pay guys who want to be there.
Yeah.
So as long as he doesn't have eyes for joining his brother in Portland or something, like I think he'll probably get another deal.
You wish.
I do wish.
I do think, I mean, we're hitting at the larger point, which is with all of this, like, just a dour outlook for Sacramento. The silver linings this season, I think, are going to be really hard to come by. Like, I don't even know where it's going to come other than if Keegan Murray has a nice kind of reclamation season, if Devin Carter has like a good, healthy season, is able to kind of show some of the player he can be, those things would be really nice.
What about Nick Clifford? I think Nick Clifford's going to be a solid role player from the jump.
I hope.
Because he is also an older rookie. I believe he's going to be 24 in February. So about as old as Keegan Murray is now. He was very good at Summer League. He obviously had a long journey in college. I believe he played 5 years. I think you see it right away. He plays a winning style of basketball. How much will that impact the bottom line? Probably not much, but just having a solid guy in there isn't the worst thing.
They need solid guys. They're starving for solid guys.
Well, that brings us to our next team, which has an abundance of solid guys, but I'm not necessarily sure how they all fit together. Number 22, your Toronto Raptors, who I think are building a case steadily of people wanting to believe in them. If only because there's just so much talent on this roster that just hasn't played together.
Yes.
In the Eastern Conference, where the bar is quite low,
Yep.
I think you could credibly make a case like, oh, they can only be so bad, right? Especially when you factor in the fact that they were a fairly good defense, especially after January 1st. That's something that they can hang their hats on. How many of the actual players they're relying on are going to be a part of that defense?
We need to talk about that.
That's a whole part of it, but Jakob Poeltl, Scotty Barnes, the components are there. At the very least, they have a backbone of defense plus some offensive juice from the guys that they've traded for and extended immediately in odd fashion. I get the case. I don't think any of us are necessarily believers in that, unfortunately.
Well, so when we talk about believing in this Raptors team, what are we saying exactly? That they're going to be a top 6 East team? That they're going to make the playoffs as a play-in team? Like, where is the threshold?
It's hard to come up with the argument because I don't believe it.
Yeah.
But
sorry, we're pigeonholing you into the speaking for the other side here.
Yeah, I think if you're a believer, and everything clicks in right, you could say like they will be a contender for a top 6, but most likely settling into the play-in, which is like modest. And so like I could see it.
Yeah.
But I also can see this just never fitting quite right in order even to get there.
I think if it wasn't Masai Ujiri, we would look at them exactly as we look at the Bulls. Like, what are you doing?
Like, but it's not Masai Ujiri anymore.
Well, it's his construction.
But it was him
Yeah.
that was been doing this.
Yes.
For 4 years or whatever.
So the guys
it's
that
been.
he believed in, you are like other people are inclined
I
to
think
believe in.
people would have been looking at this as rudderless and completely stupid and asinine of a roster build if it wasn't Masai Ujiri and all the respect that he garnered over the years. Because you just look at the team and the contracts that they've already doled out, and you say to yourself, where are we going with this? You know, I was kind of like the IQ deal. I was like, hey, it's a little bit on the pricey side, but if he becomes quality starter, you know, mid-30s minutes a game starter for your team, that would be because he's making his shots and he's running your offense and he's giving you that pop at the one that you wanted, but he's basically not played.
Yeah.
Scotty Barnes is somebody I've just become down on. Like, I just think offensively, he's just never going to be like a credible carrier of your offense. Like, I think that ship is sailed. Like, Scotty Barnes, I think that's what he wanted himself to be. I think that's why they ran Pascal Siakam out of town for. But that ain't it.
I don't think he's like the go-to scorer, but as far as a guy who can organize potentially and sort of like hold a lineup or an offense together, I still believe in that version of Scotty Barnes. Does that player coexist with Brandon Ingram?
That's crazy.
We'll find out.
That's the thing. In the
And
ideal
RJ
world,
Barrett?
And
Right.
RJ Barrett.
in an ideal world, Barnes is your go-to playmaker, and which is why quickly always made sense there
For sure.
as a point guard who doesn't necessarily need the
Yeah.
ball in order to function on offense. He can kind of slash in between the roles. I think those sorts of guys make sense. Even Brandon Ingram, to a certain extent, if he's more of your offensive juice, because Barnes' value primarily is coming defensively. Like, you could see a world where it works, but you're right. All these guys need the ball. And so I think this segues nicely to our essential question is like, what or who is going to be the key to making this all fit together? I think they need to diminish one of those guys to at least a bench role. And I think the obvious case would be RJ Barrett, who has clear value, just like the battering ram, like straight line drives, like is an effective way of scoring. I just don't think it fits here because they need more shooting on the court. And frankly, they just need fewer mouths to feed who need the ball.
Sure.
And so I think like if a Grady Dick or if a Jacoby Walter like ascends into more of the 3-and-D spot where you just don't a lower maintenance offensive player whose value comes defensively, then it makes sense. I just don't know if they're going to get that this season.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've already read the reports that RJ is firmly on the trade block, which again makes sense. He can't play with Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram on the court at the same time. Like there's just no defenses respect his shooting, unfortunately, even still in year 5 or 6 or whatever the hell it's gonna be. And giving him the ball to create and making everybody else kind of get out the way, that makes zero sense either. It's just such an unbalanced roster. And I think they have enough again in the crummy Eastern Conference that's like, why can't they be the 9th best team
Sure.
in the East? But Lord, that's dark.
Like they're better than a 30-win team, which is what they were last season because of some tanking shenanigans. Like they were massaging their win total a little bit.
Massaging?
Absolutely not. Between playing like an actual basketball team for the full season and adding someone as talented as Brandon Ingram, that alone, they will win more games. They are going to be a more successful team in that sense. But I do think Ingram is kind of low-key the most important player on this team right now. And some of that is because I like the flow that the Raptors try to play with. Like with Darko Rajakovic's offense, like they move the ball a lot. Like they're trying to get in the right spots. There are too many guys on the floor whose shots aren't respected. Like they don't have the spacing for it. There are too many people on the floor who aren't threats when they do get the ball. But all of a sudden you put someone like Brandon Ingram out there who opponents do respect. Like other NBA players treat Brandon Ingram as a threat.
Like he's a star.
And so if you are drafting off of not just like RJ barreling towards the rim, but a Brandon Ingram drive that's drawing 2 or creating something you can play out of, and then you have all these principles in place of this ball movement, you can start to see the vision of something that could work that relies on a couple things. 1, any of these guys hitting shots, literally anybody. 2, Brandon Ingram playing into his more kind of point forwardy sensibilities, which have been touch and go, and sometimes he holds the ball a little bit too long in a way that's counterintuitive to that flow. You need all of that stuff to work, and you need Scotty Barnes to figure out how to be a part of it, and maybe that's just asking too much.
Yeah. Do you want Ingram to almost play into his base impulse, which is to take control of things, because then it diminishes how much you're reliant on Barnes to be this excellent orchestrator of offense, which he hasn't typically done to, although I think his playmaking instincts are pretty elite, and I think he has a lot of room still to grow there.
Yeah.
But does it ultimately long-term suppress Barnes as being that guy? And like, how much is Ingram willing to play ball in terms of all of this? Because they traded for him and then they immediately extended him, and there's no longer leverage to suggest like you have to play more of a you have to take threes like he did for a couple games before he was shut down in New Orleans.
For a couple games, you say?
Well, most of the season, it turns out. He just got a couple bruises and we never saw him again. And so it was a starting point at the very least of something different. If he's going to play, if he combines the two guys of like who he is versus someone who takes more threes and isn't as on the ball so rigorously, like, can you tap into that, or is he just going to be who he is?
I just think if Scotty Barnes is your automatic max rookie extension guy, that you should be bringing guys in that complement what he does, right? If the vision is that he's kind of a version of Draymond with the having the ball and playmaking, but just more offensive juice, quite frankly. Like, you can't put a skinny guy on Scotty Barnes and think he's not gonna, put him underneath the rim or at the very least get to the free throw line. Like, he has his strengths that don't involve shooting threes and, traditional shot creation or whatever. I just don't think the guys that exist right now are the complementary pieces for him. Draymond Green, again, that's extreme. Like, he honed his skills playing with Steph and Klay Thompson. Like, obviously that's a blessing. Everybody can't play with the two greatest shooters of all time. But I don't even think Toronto's going in that direction. I think it's just like, these guys are big, they're athletes, they have skills, all things that are true.
Yeah.
But like, there's no compliment there.
I think what gives that some safety net is if the defense is as good as it seemed to be from January 1st on, as Justin said, the back part of last season. There's always a lot of noise with that stuff. Justin, I thought you nailed it, that in terms of the players who are actually on the floor for a lot of those stretches, a lot of those guys are just like either gone or they're really like second unit players for this team when it's healthy.
Yeah, Mobo isn't playing 30 minutes a game.
He is certainly not. And so what are the trade-offs when you get Ingram out there, who is, I promise you,
he's just not
a defender in theory, but not in practice.
Right. So disappointing, his
dimensions.
defensive career so far.
But ultimately, like, everything we're talking about, the case to believe in the Raptors is a case that their defense can coalesce and continue, that their offense can coalesce, that can work, and these guys can figure it out together. The core of this team has not played a single minute together. And sometimes guys roll it out and it just works. I don't think the skill sets tell us this is a team that's just going to work. If they do figure it out, it's going to be a longer process where it takes time, it takes development, it takes adjustment on basically everyone involved.
If the Raptors came out and were a top 4 defense, then I'd be like, okay, well, there's a theory to this team then.
It would save a lot.
They just play harder than everybody, out physical everybody, and they kind of piecemeal the offense together because they're playing at this elite level of defense. I don't think they're going to be some world-beating defense.
You don't think Jakob Poeltl will elite
Jakob Poeltl
positionally
is a good defender, but
also low-key not the guy he was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like there's been a kind of a slow depreciation of the Jakob Poeltl experience that I think has gone on in obscurity because not a lot of people are watching the Raptors play.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just won't do things wrong. And he's big.
Yep.
And he will soak up space. And so I guess that's a certain floor for the defense.
Sure.
I thought Colin Murray Bowles was a really interesting draft pick in that regard, clearly leaning more into defensive identity. He seems like he's a Draymond type where he's this like destructive front court guy who just doesn't have the same size, but he plays above the dimensions. Offensive is going to be a mess as well. And so like
he is a classic Raptors draft pick.
But you know what? It's working for me. He's among my most anticipated rookies to see, just because of like the hands, the instincts, everything you're saying, Justin, in terms of what he could be defensively. Yes, he has the ranginess and the length, and he fits like the physical profile of a recent Toronto Raptor, but he's so much more defensive oriented in a way that I think makes me really excited about the way he could fit with these other guys.
I think that's what we would say about every single player. It's like we like them in a vacuum to a certain extent.
Yep.
But you put them all together, which is how teams are formed in basketball.
Yes.
It's really tough to do. Any other guys or things? We named a lot of guys.
Named a lot of guys, named a lot of things.
Can I name one?
Yeah. What you got?
Bobby Webster taking over for Masai Ujiri.
Sure.
Who was his
an
number 2.
Interesting transition.
Yes. So we're turning the page on the Masai Ujiri era right after we let him at the very least in the room on draft night. I don't know how much he was actually running things.
That's weird.
Which is weird. But we're elevating his number 2 guy to turn the page. I do wonder because it seems like Masai was pushed out in large part because of perhaps some internal stuff. This could be just a stopgap until they find their next guy. But like, I don't think anything is changing in terms of the blueprint here if the guy who helped construct it is now the one presiding over.
When I have my last pod and you guys kick me out of here because of internal strife, can I sit in the room on the first pod of the new regime?
Yeah, watch through the glass.
Watch through the glass when you guys just like sub me out for Kyle Mann. I mean, I just want to be a part of it.
it's just it's weird right now in Toronto, and I really don't have a finger on a pulse here. I could see them being good because there's so much talent, but I could also see them being right back in the dregs of the league yet again. All right, last team on the list for part 2. It's a beloved one, at least for some of us here. It is number 21, the Portland Trailblazers, our first tie, which unfortunately Isaiah went with the team that's going to kick off part 3 of our series, and the Trailblazers end up here at 21. This was quite a summer in Portland. Not only was because I did some yard work, I ground down my front stoop so that all the old paint is off there.
Okay.
A lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah. A lot of chatter around the neighborhood.
Of course. Yeah. What's funny is like I started doing that and the dust was flying everywhere. And both of my guy neighbors like came in and checked up on me. It was like a real like siren song of like the domestic dad types.
Yeah.
Where, like they heard the call. They saw the Home Depot sign instead of a bat signal go up in the air. Like, hey, what you doing there?
Was this the classic, like the guys all come and stand around and observe the work being done?
A little. It was very King of the Hill coded, but it was more one-on-one as opposed to one big grouping there.
Well, congrats to you and your stoop.
It's still a work in progress.
The Portland Verriers.
They wish. They should change their G League team to that.
Yeah, how do you feel about the Blazers at 21? Where did you have them? Do you remember?
I think I had them slightly ahead of you, but I think Waz had them ahead of me. Wow. I had them at 20. You had them at 19, Waz, and Rob had them at 22. So kind of all around in the same range.
Yeah.
Let's go over their offseason quickly because I think that helps kind of instruct where we find them here. Busy, as I mentioned. Joe Cronin and Chauncey Billups extended before the season ended, bringing back the core of a team that showed some promise.
Yeah.
Toward the end of last season, spunky defense. There was something there to work off of. We'll talk about that in a bit. They then trade for Drew Holiday, a 35-year-old on a pretty hefty contract. Ultimately ended up being a straight swap for Anthony Simmons. So basically a salary dump on both sides, which was weird because some medical stuff happened. Second round draft picks got taken off the board. Just the 1-for-1 challenge trade at this point. Then they drafted the international man of mystery, our boy, Young Hansen, who we'll talk about at length coming up here. Then they bring back a franchise legend, Damian Lillard. They were throwing, as we're recording this on Sunday, a pep rally for him.
Wow.
To welcome him back.
I mean, deserved.
Sure. And I will tell you, it felt like half the city was there.
That's crazy.
Everyone is very excited. This is a football Sunday in America, and they're out there just saying hi to Dame as he said, I assume, some banal things about being excited about being back.
I thought you were talking about there being like a Timbers game going on. I thought we were talking about the other footy.
No. Timbers, I think, are only doing okay this year. Yeah. They'll rally, though, as we all do in Portland. And then the team ultimately sold in principle to Tom Dundon, the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes of the NHL. That probably, the transfer power probably won't happen until later in the season at earliest, but that is in the mix there. So that's a lot to happen.
Yeah.
A ton.
Ultimately, I find myself a little bit mixed, and I do think they, as an organization, are probably caught in between the two eras, the future and the past here. And I think that bringing back Dame is probably the prime example of that. At first, I think a lot of people were very excited to have him back, especially on the deal that he's on. Franchise legend. Like, I've never been in a place where a team and a city loves a guy that much. There's something special there, and there's something to be said that beyond basketball and cap strategies and all this other stuff, that is very important.
For sure.
And it's clearly important to the franchise's bottom line because they're holding pep rallies before the season even gets started there. But it is really kind of like, because the team that they built while he was away is still very much in place. So it's almost like asking an ex to join your new relationship in this new polyamorous thing where we're combining the new and the old.
Do you have a lot of experience with this?
Not yet, but leave me in Portland long enough. And I think that's where they are right now. They have a lot of pieces that would have been good for the Dame era. And so when he's healthy, he's not going to play this season. Makes sense. But then they're also ushering in Young and Scoot. There's a lot of optimism for. So it's a little bit more mixed. And I think that's probably why we find them here at 21st.
So Jeremy Grant is like the couch that your ex bought that you ended up with somehow and is like still in your house.
Right. The pet that just like is still around.
Again, all the progress last season, I think, was very real. There was like a noticeable shift in the temperament of the team, in the focus of the team, in the defense, in Chauncey Billups' coaching. Like, I thought they just took a huge step forward. that is like continued in theory, bring back Drew Holiday to an already defensive minded team. Great. But you do wonder how all the pieces are going to fit in the sense of like, for one, I don't know if are Drew and Jeremy Grant both going to start? And if so, at whose expense?
Exactly.
What should happen versus what will happen, I think, is the question.
Yes.
What should happen?
What should happen is Jeremy should come off the bench. I think
Yes.
his best days are behind him. He did not play well last year. It's actually a running joke amongst some of my median brethren that he doesn't play after the trade deadline.
Oh.
And he hasn't for a very long time. I don't think he was happy toward the end of last season that he did not get traded, but he finds himself back in the same. I think what will happen, because Chauncey leans on veterans and on defense, is they will probably start Drew, Tumani, Denny, Jeremy, Donovan Clingan.
Oh.
Because you give credit to the vets.
Yeah.
But what should happen is I think Drew should start in the backcourt with Scoot, and you should bring Jeremy off the bench.
That would make a lot of sense to me. I think in terms of the shape of this team, a lot of what makes it possible and makes them good is Denny and Tumani's like versatility, their ability to kind of move around the board, guard a bunch of different kinds of players. Denny's offensive facilitation is so critical in terms of the guards that you can play him with. Like they make a lot of this stuff possible. Sometimes I think that can let you be a little too cute or lean a little too much on your veterans because these guys are giving you so much and you can move them around the board. But I would love to see Scoot get a real shot at this, especially in a post Anthony Simons era. Like, give him the reins.
What's the point of doing that if you're not going to give this guy the shot to be the guy?
Completely.
And I think he will. And that brings us to our existential question: is Scoot a guy? And I think part of it is just the timing. I think Dame basically having a season off before he gets to play next year because he's hurt gives him an opportunity to see what he has there. I also think the team is constructed, as Rob is saying, for a guy to basically orchestrate and like to organize all of these wings that lean defense and shooting, but lack some of the on-ball skills that you need. That's why I think Young, in the vision for him, makes sense with these guys. He is orchestrating and kind of activating all these various defensive wings.
And Clingan a little bit too. Like there's some high post passing here that I think could work for everybody. But the critical way in which the high post passing works, or running offense through Denny on the second side or whatever it is, Scoot has to hit shots. He has to, and he had 2 months where he did, and then he has half a season where he did. The rest of the time, it can be a little touch and go. And so, what kind of spot up shooter is Scoot Henderson? I think is just a critical piece of his developmental puzzle.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people were excited about, like he had this reputation for being somebody that works really hard at it, and so there's kind of been a trust that if the shot is improving, that it's real because he's working his tail off at it. I think to me, if they come out of this season and neither Scoot nor Shaedon Sharpe are seen as foundational pieces, like what did we just do for 3 years in Portland? Like
trade for Denny Avdia is the answer.
That's like
it's possible he comes out being the best young guy that they have.
That's tough, man, because obviously Ayton was a joke. Rob Williams can't stay on the floor.
Yep.
And, it was this idea of like, all right, youth movement, especially around those two guys specifically, these very high lottery picks. And if we just finish this season, it's like, yeah, these guys are mega expendable.
Yeah.
And it's Dame and Drew Holiday and Kamara and Denny Avdia.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I think it's telling that we got to this point in the conversation. We throw away Shaedon as kind of like a cast off. Like, I think he is ancillary. I think he might be the most talented player on the roster, but will he ever get it? I think is a very much open question. He could start ultimately, but I think he played his best basketball coming off the bench because Chauncey finally put his foot down and was like, no, you got to kind of have to earn this. And I just don't know where he is. We've talked about it in the past. I just think he's a little sleepy as a person, as a personality, and like things haven't clicked for him. And so at this point, I would say in terms of like what you're expecting, I think the reason why you're hearing so much Scoot and like, can Scoot be the guy is one. I think it's timing. I think it's wish casting because he has this opportunity.
Of course.
I think like he's at an important year before they have to decide on an extension. But I also think Waz is 100% right. That dude gets it. I think he is a worker, and he had a end of season press conference at the end of last season, and he was just going over all of the technical things that went into him kind of turning the page.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you could kind of see the way he thinks about things. And I think he's just like such a grinder and thinks about these things on such a granular level that I could see why the franchise is like, oh, he might turn it around because I think he gets it at that level.
I mean, the reason he can have a press conference like that at the end of the season is because he did have a course correction. Like, he went very quickly from rookie year, I don't know about the future of this guy's
The
game.
rookie year was horrible.
It was really bad. And in his sophomore year, you could see the elements starting to come together. And look, he needs a lot more reps. He needs to figure it out. I think in particular who he is as a scorer, kind of like how he fits into a sophisticated NBA offense is something he needs to sort out. But the reads are there and you can see them. Like, you can see him processing the game in real time in a way that, yes, is messy, in the way that it is for all young players, but represents something fundamentally different than whether Shaedon Sharpe is actually paying attention and locked in on this possession or not, or whether he decides it's Shaedon Sharpe time, which Shaedon Sharpe time is about the most scintillating thing in the NBA. So it's like, I get it. I get why he would be tempted in that direction. But when the broader culture of the team right now is high intensity, high focus defense, Shaedon Sharpe does not feel like he is rowing in the same direction. And he's not good enough offensively on his own to be like bailing out the team's offensive limitations.
Yeah. The Scoot conversation is funny because even at the beginning of last season, I think you would see a lot of people being like, that's it. He doesn't get it.
Right.
I think there's probably text messages in our group chat that probably speak to that, where it's just like, this guy's done. But like, as soon as the shooting came around, you saw things click into place. And now a lot of that shooting success, which we should mention, so January 1st is we're using it as a marker for things turning around, 37.5 3-point percentage.
Yeah.
Pretty good. 41 game sample. That's pretty good. But a lot of those shots, people were ceding to him because they were like, go ahead, bro.
Yeah.
And so
he got to make those first.
You do.
He made them.
That's step one.
And now the next step I do think is inside the arc there, because the at rim stuff is very challenging. Yeah. I think he is ultimately going to be a below the rim guy. I thought coming into the draft he was more of like a Russell Westbrook, explode over the top, but like he's going to have to be a crafty Mike Conley sort of finisher. And I think the floater range is really going to decide whether or not he's going to be a high level player versus just like a rotation guy. And to that point, according to Synergy, he was 481st out of 542 players scoring at the rim last season.
Woof.
Big ol' yikes.
Still somehow better than Jeremy Grant.
Well, if you can find a clip of Jeremy Grant attempting a shot around the rim last season, I'll believe it when I see it.
I don't mean to bag on Jeremy because he might be one of the sweetest humans I've met in the NBA. Just like one of the best guys.
He's also very capable of being a good player. He's just been out in the wilderness for years now.
Yeah.
But Portland's a serious... For the second half of the season, they were a serious outfit.
Yeah.
I know it's like cliche, but if a team is defending at that level, that's a team that's locked in. This isn't a team that's just taking it as like, oh, we're not going to make the playoffs. This is kind of a developmental kind of team. Who cares? Like, they took it serious.
For sure.
And I think, if you as a veteran can't get on that program, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And they're a little different from the Raptors in that way, where we were just talking about Toronto's defensive success last season, how many different players are coming in. Portland is turning over its rotation. Like, they're losing big minute players, but they're losing many of their worst defenders.
Yeah, that's right.
And replacing them with guys like Drew Holiday, or replacing them with like, no, Matisse Thybulle is going to play more minutes if he can stay healthy. Like,
he shut out well toward the end of last season too.
Yeah. And like those things in concert should make them even more formidable defensively, assuming that they're able to maintain that sort of effort and intensity.
Brings us right to naming some guys, because we haven't talked a lot about Donovan Clingan at this point. 7.5 block percentage, would have been second in the NBA behind only Wemby last season if he played an amount of minutes that would have made him eligible for that leaderboard.
He also had some games where it was like, he's just completely changing this game with his ability to protect the rim.
I mean, there were times where Zion was like baffled, and Zion will power through just like a dump truck if he could. I will give Clingan credit as well. Again, at the end of the press conference, he acknowledged the fact that he had some weight issues, which I've dinged him for in the past, and I think it clearly gotten back to him, because I think a lot of people were talking about he just like couldn't stay on the floor because he wasn't conditioned. He has looked much better over the offseason. I think he's seeing the opportunity to be a starter. And is getting toward there. The offense is a work in progress. He needs to be able to catch the ball. He needs to be able to finish the ball. But if he's just on the court longer and is a defensive just guy you have to factor in there, that's going to make a difference.
I do think he will probably be the starter. I do think Rob Williams, when he can play, is still quite good. As a council of people who are trying to find minutes for Young Hansen, Do we think they're going to roll out any like double big stuff?
No.
Like we've seen, you don't think there's any chance of it?
No, Chauncey's been asked that. At least until we're recording this, there wasn't any plans for it.
That's disappointing. I mean, clearly they like leaning into the very like rangy, wingy style that's worked for them so far, but I wouldn't hate seeing some Yang clinging minutes.
No,
Not a
Twin
Twin
Towers.
one.
Yeah.
With
It's just,
Yang stroking it from outside.
There's too much limitations.
This brings back Jokic Nurk.
That's what I'm
Memories.
saying.
That kind of
like,
works sometimes. I don't know what to
it's
tell you.
just-
Sometimes.
It's just it's too limited, and they've just had too much success. Modest as it's been with the wings, kind of
Sure.
leading the charge, right? So you got to reward that, but
But there's gonna be 2 weeks in January when like a couple of Blazers are injured, and it's like, you know what? Let's just do it. And
let's
it's
just
gonna
do
be
it.
it's gonna be glorious, and I look forward to it.
If they start tanking, that might be the starting lineup. And because we're talking around Yang, who was their draft pick, who came out of nowhere. I have to say, run for the ages this summer. In the photos you see popping up randomly on like an Instagram or like your friend of a friend,
My guy, this is just the algorithm feeding you what you want to see.
it knows exactly what I want. But the funny thing is, it's always at the most common areas. It's like Costco or a mall.
Like Blazer players, just
Yang
Yang
specifically.
Hansen
Like I ran
specifically.
into
Wow.
Yang
At Costco.
at Costco,
Yeah.
buying like some nougat. You know what I mean?
that's so funny, bro.
To which Kyle Mann has now dubbed him the Kirkland Jokic.
I mean, I love it.
It's pretty good. We're excited for that. We're excited about the rest of these preseason power rankings. We'll get back to you next week with part 3. We're gonna start talking about some actually good basketball teams.
Yes.
After 2+ hours, we're gonna get to the meat of the league. Thank you to Victoria Valencia. Thank you to Isaiah Blakely. Thank you to Ben Cruz. We'll be back next time. We'll talk to you then.